Oh great, a culture war over clean, breathable air that protects our health and doesn't kill people. That's essentially where we're at now with the row over ULEZ. That is the ultra low emission zone, which has just been expanded in London. And it's all become shrouded in myths and lies, which is standard fare in the great culture wars which have gripped this country now for the last 7 years or so. Now, I want to go through these myths and these lies. To start with, here's a little chunk of me talking about it on Good Morning Britain. Thousands of preventable deaths are linked to toxic air every year. It's not just deaths, by the way. We're talking asthma. We're talking stunted lungs of children. We're talking dementia. We're talking cancer. These are all, it's a public health crisis. In inner London, ULEZ has brought toxic air down. Sorry, in central London. Central London it's brought toxic air down by 50%. Now, we had the Conservatives, I saw this week. I don't know how we can get away with politicians just say things which aren't true. They tweeted out saying every car entering will face a charge. That's not true. 90% of cars, as I've said, aren't affected. For small businesses and charities,
if you're so passionate about this, why is Sir Keir Starmer seemingly unconvinced?
Because I'm afraid he's not exactly the most principled of politicians. And I have to say, throwing Sadiq Khan, a Labour mayor, under a bus, when all he's trying to do is extend a scheme which has saved lives, which will save lives in outer London. And I do think, there are people in the home counties, by the way, who come into London who aren't going to get, because they can't spend London taxpayers' money helping them. The government should step in. They have stepped in other parts of the country to offer that scheme. Why not do it in the home counties? Now, ULEZ means that older polluting vehicles are subject to a charge of £12.50 when they enter the zone until they take money from an official fund to help upgrade them to a compliant vehicle. So first off, it's claimed that ULEZ isn't popular. Not true. Not true at all. In fact, a survey by the pollsters Redfield and Wilton found that 57% of Londoners supported ULEZ, with just 24% opposed. Well, you think, well, okay, but what about outer London, where it's been expanded to? Well, they found that 51% were in support and 29% were opposed. Secondly, we're told that huge numbers of Londoners are going to be clobbered by it. The Tories have even tweeted, expanding ULEZ will hit every driver entering London, including carers, parents, grandparents, patients and sole traders. Just a lie. A straightforward lie of a sort which should not be acceptable in a functioning democracy. 90% of cars aren't affected and 80% of vans aren't affected. So we're talking actually about a very small minority of polluting vehicles which are a threat to our health. Why has it been introduced? It's been introduced because of a decades-long battle to clean the air of the capital. That is a problem, pollution, which in the past has caused deaths on a really big scale, actually. I mean, if you go back to the Great Smog of 1952, that was estimated to have killed 12,000 people after hanging in the air for just 5 years. It took a whole range of different public health measures to stop that from happening. But even as is, across Britain, it's estimated that each year between 28,000 and 36,000 deaths are linked to air pollution. In London, 4,000 preventable deaths. That's a huge number of avoidable deaths. But we're not just talking about killing people. We're talking about asthma. We're talking about children growing up with stunted lungs. We're talking about cancer. We're talking about dementia and other problems which affect our health and, it must be said, impose a cost on an already struggling National Health Service. Now, you may have heard that actually the science is divided over this. That is simply not accurate. The vast majorities of studies, of experts, of scientists, conclude that air pollution has a very severe health impact and that ultra-low emission zones massively reduce it. That is what we call a scientific consensus. In the same way we have a scientific consensus over the climate emergency. You might be able to find a few dissenting voices, but the vast majority of scientists are on the same page. That is the same here. The one study that's been held up is from Imperial College's engineering department, not their air quality department, and it looks at a tiny time frame around the policy launch, which is daft because it needs to be looked at for months and years leading up to the launch when people change their vehicles and behaviour in preparation and following the launch. That's what multiple scientists have concluded. Indeed, if you look at harmful NO2 concentrations around roads in central London, that's estimated to have been lowered by nearly a half because of ULEZ, and in inner London by over a fifth. The number of schools in areas exceeding the legal limits for nitrogen oxide fell from 455 in 2016 to just 20 in 2019. That is an absolutely colossal change when it comes to the health of small children.
Now, playing a key role in reducing the number of air pollution-related asthma admissions, that's also important. And indeed, admissions for children with air pollution-related asthma admissions have fallen by a third. That's a massive achievement. I mean, what's important here? What can be more important than children's health? Not many things, I would say, in life, and certainly not the right to drive around with polluting vehicles. Now, here's a key point. We hear that ULEZ hits the poor hardest, but the studies show that pollution hits poorer communities and black and ethnic minority Londoners the hardest. They're the ones who are being most protected by ULEZ. Now, we are told that this is a tax on the poorest. It's worth bearing in mind, by the way, that over half of the poorest Londoners don't have a car, compared to 29% amongst the richest Londoners. Now, a scrappage fund was introduced worth around £160 million. It was first granted to low-income and disabled Londoners, sole traders, small businesses and charities. Every single Londoner with a non-compliant car is now eligible, with £2,000 available for non-compliant cars, £7,000 for a non-compliant van, and for minibuses up to £11,500. Now, people say that's not enough money. That won't help people, but that's simply not true. If you look on Auto Trader alone, there's around 5,000 ULEZ compliant cars available for less than £2,000, and that is just on one website. People say, oh, well, this is just an excuse to plug revenue gaps. But for one thing, all the net revenue will be reinvested into public transport, including expanding the bus services in outer London, which deals with a central objection, because people say, well, we have less public transport access in outer London, so we rely more on cars. Well, this will help to make people less reliant on cars. And in fact, in any case, by 2026, 2027, it's estimated it won't raise any revenue because the number of compliant vehicles will rise and rise. Indeed, it's working. In the last week alone, there's been 15,000 applications for the scrappage scheme. People are using it in order to swap polluting vehicles for compliant vehicles, which won't threaten the health of people around them. This will save lives and improve people's health. That's what matters. And here's a prediction. In a year's time, this is going to be completely uncontroversial. Just as the consensus was won over the congestion charge or indeed the smoking ban, lots of fury and rage, particularly now being inflamed because of the culture war, because of the rise of conspiratorial thinking. This has all been linked to things like 15-minute cities, which we'll cover, I think, in a separate video. But this is about myths and lies, cynical political attacks, and a culture war which has spiralled long ago out of control. In fact, it's been inflamed by the fact Sadiq Khan himself has become a particular target of the culture war, and ULEZ is being expanded under his watch. In my view, the mayor should be congratulated for his courage, his leadership, and his determination in the face of often vicious opposition, including being subjected to threats. He'll be vindicated by history. The Tories' cynical opportunism and dishonesty will be exposed, in my view, for putting lives and public health at risk. And we can see it. All of this, the right-wing attacks, helping to drive vandalism, for example, of ULEZ cameras, while Keir Starmer throwing Sadiq Khan under a bus, in my view, will be judged harshly indeed. Let's protect public health, particularly the health of children. Let's prevent avoidable deaths. Let's complete the mission of purifying our air to make it healthy and breathable. That will benefit all of us. And, as I've said, when people upgrade to compliant cars and vehicles, we'll look back at this and wonder what all the fuss was about. Please like, subscribe, do support us on patreon.com/OwenJones84 to keep this on the road. I'll speak to you soon.